Hello and welcome to this video on the subject of Photoshop Actions and the image processor. Actions in Photoshop is where we can record a series of edits to one image and then apply those edits to any other image via a button, a keystroke, or even with the image processor. Actions can include a multitude of different tasks, anything from resizing images to sepia toning them, or even adding a presentation effect. Now I'm just going to use 22 images here for demonstration purposes, but the whole point of Actions and also the image processor is that they can be used when we have a large group of images. Now, as you can see, I'm starting the process with just one of those images opened into Photoshop. It doesn't matter which one. I'm going to go to the windows at the top and I'm going to open up my actions. I'm going to leave the actions floating on screen while we work here. I'm going to go to the right. You can see there's a lot of default actions here that come with Photoshop, but we're going to make one of our own and our own set. So let's go to the top right, click and say we'll have a new set. We can give it any name we like. I'll call this my presentation set. OK to that. Within that set I need to go back to that icon at the top right and select new action. Now I can give this a name. I'll just say white black line, just for something to demonstrate. There's the set that's already been picked up. I can choose a function key to run the action once it's done. Let's select F8, and I can even select a color if we choose to use buttons. So I'll select one of those just to give you an idea of how that's going to look. And when I click record, you'll see the little record light comes on here. Perhaps I'll just tuck this away on the right hand side so we can keep an eye on it, but we don't have to rush once that red light comes on, and we should see all of the actions appear here as we start to record them. So I need to record my action. I'm going to go to my layers here and just remove the lock. From the top left of the screen I'm going to go to Edit, Free Transform. I'm going to reduce the size of the image to give myself a bit of a border around the edge. I'm not sure what I need to give yet, so I'm going to do it just a little bit. That looks the sort of thing I'm after. And then I'm going to look up at the values here. I can see I've got almost 94% there, so I'll round that up to 94. And this one is virtually 90, so I'll make that 90. So there we have the position, and I can hit the tick to commit that change. The next thing I'd like to do is to apply a new blank layer. So into the layers, create the layer, and I'm going to drag it to the bottom of the stack. I'm going to flood this with white. White is the background color in my color picker, so Control Backspace will do that. Now selecting the image once again, I'm going to add some effects. Down at the bottom of the layers, we'll bring the effects up on screen. What I want, let's push this into the middle. What I want is a drop shadow. I've got one, but it's very small, so I'll just give that a bit of a boost. That's a little bit better. Maybe I'll drop the blend mode down a little bit. That looks good. Then I'll tick the stroke and I'll put maybe 2 pixels on the inside and I'll change that to black. So it's a simple presentation technique, but nevertheless that's what I've done. And finally I'll go to the top right there and choose to flatten the image. Now I can go to the Actions palette and stop my action, and we can actually see all the different stages of the action I've just created. Now of course when we make one of these, the first thing we're going to want to do is test it. We don't need the actions on screen to run the action. We'll test it first with the function key of F8. Now, as you can see by the spinning round of the screen, I closed down my original work without saving it. So with a new image on screen, now comes the crunch, because when I hit the F8 key, there's the action automatically run on that image. Now let me close that image down without saving it, and I'll retrieve another one in a moment. Another way we can set the action running, if we go to the top right, we can look at these in button mode. So there I can see my white black line. It's telling me I've got a function key as well, but of course I can run it just by clicking that button. So I could color code a series of actions if they was on similar subjects. So let me open up another one of those images, or maybe I'll open up 2 or 3, and we'll test the button. And of course the actions can be anywhere on screen, so if you want to make them a bit more convenient to the tabs, there's image 14, touch the button, and there's our action and our presentation effect. There's number 13 and number 7. So they're pretty powerful, and we can do almost anything with an action. Now I'm going to close my actions down because I don't need them on screen anymore. I'm going to go to the top bar, right click and close all, and no, I don't want to save any of those, because what we're going to look at next is the image processor. To do that we need to go to File, Scripts, Image Processor, and you'll notice that we've got a set of numbers here, so there's 4 sections that we may want to consider setting up. The first of which is to select the folder of images that we want to change. Now I'm going to click the button to do that. I've got mine tucked away quite a long way away here because I've got them in all my demo files. There we have Actions and Image Processor. The images are within that folder. So all I need to do is to highlight the folder and select it. Now we do have other options there, but we're not concerned with those at all. The second section is, what do we want to do with the images when they're changed? Well, I want to save them in the same location, and the great thing about the image processor is it will not overwrite our originals. It will create another folder called JPEG, and they will be placed in there, so best of all worlds. But now we can look down at section 3. Well, as you can see, whatever I had set here before was JPEG at quality 5, but I can select JPEG, Photoshop and a TIFF file, so I could save all 3 or any one. But on this occasion I want to save a JPEG. I want a quality size, let's say a mid-range one of about 8, which is good for size and quality. I do want to convert the profile to sRGB. I think they're all going to be sRGB anyway, but it's good practice to say yes, convert it if it isn't. But if you remember, or if you looked at the size of these files, they were 16:9 aspect ratio, but 2560 pixels on the long side. For the sake of this demonstration, let's just assume I want to resize them to 1920 by 1080. Now I could just hit run here and Photoshop would open up those images and apply those changes for me. But if we look down into section 4, you'll see a box that says, do we want to run an action? So let me go down here, tick the box to run the action, then select the set that I want, which is my presentation set, and as I've only got one action in there, it's selected that for me. You can see we can even put some copyright information in here if we wish, and then I can click run. Photoshop will open up each of those images, it will run the action, resize them and save them as JPEGs at level 8. And if I go back to my bridge here and I go back into the folder, There we can see the JPEG folder that's been created by the action or the processor, and when I open this up, there you can see all of the images all resized, and they all have our presentation effect. Now if you had a habit of always putting a fine line around images you submit to competitions or something along those lines, even though it's a simple task to do, we can record an action, apply it to a function key, so every time we hit that key it's done automatically for us. In the past I have made a slideshow with about 40 images within it, and once the slideshow was complete I wanted to see how it would look if I'd created the images as sepia tone. So I could just record applying a sepia tone to one image and quickly apply it to all 40 of those images, and then I can test my slideshow and save a lot of time as well. Now I hope this has been a useful video within this set of Photoshop for photographers, because actions and the image processor could save a whole heap of time.